Really quickly, before we begin here, I want to make this very clear. There will be chapter times in the description below. So if you want to hear me talk about one thing rather than another, jump down below. And also, really quick disclaimer, when there is the chapter titled spoilers, that is not me talking about spoilers for the film, but rather if the film had anything left to be spoiled that wasn't seen in the trailers. So keep that in mind. Thank you guys. Here are the descriptions of what you can expect to see in this video. I hope you enjoy. I will let you guys get right into it. What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we are going to be doing my review for Jurassic Park 5, Jurassic World 2, The Lost World 3, Fallen Kingdom 1. I was sitting here writing my script for this movie and I was like, is it even worth how much attention I'm going to give it? Because I have 4 pages of notes here. I'm like, is it even worth that? And because I let better movies than this slip by me. I let like, Ready Player One go with a very brief, breezy review. Did I even review that movie or did I just do the Easter eggs? I can't even remember. Infinity War I let go with a very brief review, but this one I went all in, and it's a spoiler-free review, so it's like, I don't know why I gave this movie so much attention, but I did. I hope you all enjoy this review, though. It's going to be very in-depth. You're going to know my exact feelings on this movie without even hearing me address one spoiler. Let's jump right into it. I know you guys were very excited for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, so I hope you enjoy my review of the movie. Alright, getting into the story. So, the story of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, geez. Isla Nublar, the island from the first Jurassic Park movie. Isla Nublar's dormant volcano isn't so dormant anymore, but that's alright because Isla Sorna, the one from Jurassic Park 3, that one's all good. That one's still safe for now. Anyways, Isla Nublar's volcano is now active. As a result, there is a rescue mission sent out to the island to save 11 species of dinosaurs. Our favorite characters from Jurassic World team up with a new cast of characters as they go save as many dinos as they can before the island explodes. But there's a twist. It turns out that the dinos weren't being saved, but instead they were being captured in order to be sold on the black market. Now dealers are trying to make a huge profit off of them. That would be a spoiler in my books, although 2 of the 3 trailers played that up very heavily, so I don't know what to say. And we'll address that a little bit later. Anyways, things go wrong and now we have a horror movie set inside of a spooky mansion starring a few dinosaurs. So one thing I want to address really fast is the pacing. The first act starts very slow and then it gets pretty good. Things never drag in the first act. The second act starts very fast and then slows to a horrible halt. Things start to drag, and it was never like I was sitting there checking my phone like, when am I gonna get out of here? But it was like, hey, can we just get to the good stuff? We got a lot of interesting setup, but can we just get to the good stuff? And then the third act has some pretty great payoff. It's a very fast-paced and fairly scary sequence. I didn't actually get scared, but the theater was jumping. I was more terrified of the horribly sick person sitting right next to me who was coughing all over me and spilling popcorn on me and wound up having a bubble around him by the end of the movie because he was disgusting. Ladies and gentlemen, really quick side tangent here. If you're sick and you go to the movies, here's an idea. Don't go to the movies. This guy coughed non-stop, took me out of the experience. Once again, spilled popcorn all over me, disgusting slob. There were assigned seats. It's an IMAX 3D theater, you know, you're not supposed to move your seats. But I wound up having to switch with people just to try and get further and further away from him, and then people would switch with other people to try and get away from him because he was gross. And then the teenagers sitting behind him wound up being his buddies. He was there with them, and they were horribly obnoxious, talking throughout the whole movie about what, you may ask? Star Wars. This isn't even a Star Wars movie. They're talking about like stormtroopers landing on a beach and how cool that would be. It's like, just watch the movie. So if you're gonna be annoying, just wait to pirate it. At that point, you're already annoying. You're already ruining the experience for someone. Why not ruin it for the filmmakers so that all of us in the theater don't have to suffer for it? Alright, that's a bit extreme. Just wait for the DVD, guys. I don't care. Just don't ruin my movie-going experience. Either way, the theater in general was very spooked by the third act. Alright, so let's talk about the tone. I should say tones because there isn't really a set tone for this movie, because this isn't a movie. This is Two movies squished into one. Alright, so the first movie is a less interesting story about Isla Nublar blowing up due to a volcano, and just, it's about people trying to save dinosaurs. There's no real set tone for it. It's kind of a action comedy, but that's about it. The second movie is a super interesting horror film about dinosaurs running loose inside of a big mansion. It's just like The Purge, except instead of people trying to get in, they're trying to get out. That one had a really great horror movie-esque tone. So let's talk about the horror and why I think it fails completely. This movie has no guts. Literally, there's no guts, there's no gore, there's nothing horrible we see on screen. And I thought the first Jurassic World, it kind of took me by surprise when I watched it, because I watched it in theaters and I just remember sitting there going like, wow, they really went there. They show a lot of gore in here that I did not expect. This movie, however, it really tones it down. It draws it back from the first Jurassic World, and it goes for a horror movie-esque tone, except it doesn't achieve that because it's not a horror movie. This is a big blockbuster. It's an action film. The second act for this movie should have been rated R. Like I said, it should have been 2 films. The second film should have been rated R. I don't care if it'll make less money. This movie simply does not succeed in doing what it wants to do, which is be a horrifying horror movie, a very scary movie. It doesn't succeed in that because nothing in here is truly scary. Nothing is truly disgusting. Nothing is truly disturbing. And that's all because everything that happens off screen. We see very few dinosaur attacks on screen in this movie, and the ones that we do see, they're pretty gruesome, but there's no blood, there's nothing, and I know it's a kid's movie. I'm just saying, if you're gonna try and make a horror movie starring these dinosaurs, maybe try and have it actually be a horror movie instead of, you know, marketing it as a blockbuster, so you have to make it a PG-13 film. Alright, now talk about characters. We got a lot of character notes here. This is going to draw out the review quite a bit. Sorry about that. Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt. Owen Grady is great. I love Chris Pratt. And that should have been saved for the actor notes, because I separate these character notes by the character and then the actor, but my bad. I love Chris Pratt. His story continues very naturally from where we left him in the first Jurassic World, and he's a very badass character in this movie. It's like he's put up with so much crap for so long leading up to this movie that by this point he's just ready to be down to business, and I love it. Chris Pratt is a very likable actor. He has some very Star-Lord-esque moments in here that are toned down from Star-Lord to fit this more intelligent version of what I consider the modern Chris Pratt character. You know, Chris Pratt went from being a comedy star on TV to being an action movie star. Then he kind of has his own little character that he plays all the time, whether it be Star-Lord or whether it be Owen Grady. However, Owen Grady is a much more, I'd say, intelligent, toned-down version of Star-Lord, and I liked seeing him in this movie. He's very good at playing that character, and he didn't kill half the universe this time, so that's nice. Claire Dearing, played by Bryce Dallas Howard. Claire is alright. She's a bit more gullible than I would have liked, especially because she's, you know, the main star of the movie. She goes all in during the final act of this movie, and she proves herself to be very capable, even more so than she was in the first film. She can really hold her own now. Bryce Dallas Howard gives it her all in this movie, and demonstrates how great of an actress she truly is, just like she did back during the first film. Eli Mills, played by Ralph Spall. He's your typical charming bad guy. Don't have anything else to say about him. Spall does a good job in this role, however, you know, he's just a generic character. Frank Webb, played by Justice Smith. He's the annoying, unhelpful character who's put in here just for laughs. Alright, you know, the actor, he does a fairly good job in the role, however, I think he needs to work on his comedic timing. I didn't really find anything that he does in this whole movie helpful or funny, and he just kind of drove me nuts, especially his annoying little scream that they thought was hilarious, so they put it in here like 17 times. Zaya Rodriguez, played by Daniela Vida. She's another super unhelpful character, just there to be sassy, and could have been written into any other different character, and that may have helped the movie as a result of having it be a different character. Also, am I the only one who was blown away that this actress is Mexican and not Asian? That's kind of crazy to me. She looks very Asian to me. That's just a side note. Anyways, the actor or actress, she does a good job in the role. You know, it's not that bad acting. That's not the problem with the character. It's just the character, the way it's written, the way she's written. I didn't like her. I didn't find her to be relatable. I didn't enjoy her on screen at all. But that's not the actress's fault. She does a good job in the role. Macy Lockwood, played by Isabel Sermon. This girl is a super sympathetic character with a great twist regarding her past that I think is super interesting, and I cannot wait to see the implications of that explored further in a future movie. And Lockwood does a killer job in this movie, especially for this being her breakout role. She straight up nails this part, and she has never been in anything else before, and that blows me away. When I was checking her IMDb credits and she had never been in a movie before, that amazed me, because she does a killer job in this film. Here are some honorable mentions. We have Benjamin Lockwood, played by James Conwell. He is a sympathetic John Hammond impersonator. He's not as great as John Hammond, but, you know, he's alright, he's serviceable. We have Mr. Evsler, played by Toby Jones. Remember him from Captain America? Keep that character in mind during this one. Some of you may be asking, why would we do that? Well, that's because this character in this movie really isn't a bad guy at all. He's not that unlikable, and he really doesn't deserve how things go for him at the end of the movie. Things go very wrong for him towards the end of the movie, and I think the only way to really be okay with it, in my opinion, is just to be like, alright, you know, he's a Nazi. Remember him from Captain America? This guy's a Nazi. He deserves it. Because the character in this movie, it's like, he's just a businessman. You know, this movie treats him like he's the villain, but he's just a businessman. Then we have Ken Wheatley, played by Ted Levine. So this is what happens to the captain after Monk? He seriously straight up turns into the biggest jerk after that show. But I did really like seeing Buffalo Bill run around on Dinosaur Island, so it's alright. Dr. Wu, played by B.D. Wong. You know, I love seeing him back reprising his role from the first movie and Jurassic World, and I think this movie really emphasizes the fact that he's not evil. He's just a typical mad scientist who's obsessed with his creation more so than he's obsessed with humanity. That doesn't make him a bad guy, that just makes him a normal mad scientist that we've seen before. They can be sympathetic. I don't think he's necessarily sympathetic, but at the same time, he's not a bad guy. Then we have Blue, the pretty badass dinosaur that does some interesting things considering he's just a wild animal and a dinosaur. He's supposed to eat people, but, you know, if he wants to be a hero, that's alright. And even when Owen Grady's not around to tell him to be a hero, he's still a hero, so he can do what he wants. It's a pretty welcome addition to the franchise, in my opinion, because I loved him, or her, I guess it's a her. I love seeing her in her 2 appearances throughout the franchise so far. I'm excited to see more from Blue. And, that's all of them, right? I'm not forgetting anyone, am I? Because I kind of feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, that's right. Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum. You know, I only forgot about him because the movie also forgets about him. Malcolm is seriously underused in this film. However, he does get the best line of the movie, so it kind of evens it out. And he's literally the only logical person in this entire movie. The only person who can actually think through a situation is him. So it's like, I wish we could get some more intelligent characters back in this franchise. It's sad knowing that he does a total of absolutely nothing throughout the course of this entire film, and he really doesn't dictate what happens in the plot at all. And then there's Jeff Goldblum. Name a movie that he's not likable in. I'll wait. Every single moment Jeff Goldblum is on screen in this movie, he steals the entire film. You know, he steals the scene. He's fantastic. I love him. I can't believe we did not get more of him, especially because the trailers really hyped up his character. Although I knew he was just going to be a cameo, it was just disappointing to see actually happen. How about the comedy in this movie? Works at times. Not all the time. Sometimes it works. I do have to give out a shout out to the directing in this movie. The director was J.A. Bayona, and hands down, this is one of the most well-directed movies I've ever seen. From a visual standpoint, it's fantastic. And even from the way it handles the story, it's also very well done. Here are some of the best traits of the directing. There are some great long shots on characters or on sets or on dinosaurs that just look beautiful. There is a steady film style, and it is easy to tell what's happening. And there's a lot of classic Universal horror imagery worked in here that just is beautiful. As well as there's some truly claustrophobic scenes in here that I think really highlight the horror element of this movie. There's a great sense of scale as well, and there's some seriously good tension that I think a lot of people are not giving credit to. Seriously, the directing in this movie is amazing. The visual effects, they are really good. We have some fantastic practical effects that are very convincing in the movie, and I love seeing the animatronics and practical effects back on screen. And there is also some really good CGI in here as well. There's nothing in this movie that I saw and I was like, that doesn't look good. Every single thing in this movie looked good. The soundtrack, though, it is not as good. There's nothing special about this soundtrack. It just doesn't stand out. It doesn't get time to itself. The dinosaurs, they are really cool. There's some great new additions to the roster that I can't wait to see again in the future, and there is an awesome hybrid dinosaur in here, the Indoraptor, that I think is totally badass. I wish we got to see him more in the movie, and I wish we got to see him more in the franchise going on because he is super cool. How about the spoilers though? And I'm not talking about, I'm gonna talk about spoilers for the spoiler review. This is not a spoiler review. I'm talking about, was there anything left in the movie to be surprised by? And the answer is not really. The trailers ruined a lot of the best shots and a lot of the best twists and a lot of the best lines. There are some cool things in here, some things that happen with certain characters in here, but other than that, there's nothing. You know, we don't really have anything left open for this movie to show us because the trailers really did a good job of showing us everything. How about the future of the franchise? Me personally, I'm super excited to see what happens beyond this point. I cannot wait to see the next movie because this movie leaves us on a super interesting, I don't want to say cliffhanger because this story ends, but it leaves us on an interesting setup for the future. How about the post-credit scene though? Well, if you're like me, you sat through 10 minutes of end credits just to see a total of 3 seconds worth of post-credit scenes with no dialogue, nothing new added to the film, nothing for the future of the story, and everything that we saw was already hammered home in the last few minutes of the film anyways. I think that this post-credit scene is completely not worth waiting for. It is totally skippable. What about the IMAX 3D? Well, I saw this film in IMAX 3D, and while I do always recommend IMAX, seeing movies in IMAX, for big blockbusters anyways, the 3D in this movie was totally unnecessary and was really annoying. It didn't add anything to the movie, and don't waste your money on it. So, I've talked a lot about the good things in this movie, I've talked a little bit about the bads, but I want to give a special section to the faults in this movie. Not because I hate this movie, but because I think every good review should be a balance, and this is my balance. So, the second act grinds to a halt, things become very slow, and this all follows a first act which was only alright. It wasn't great, it gets good, but then everything slows down before it can get very interesting. That's why I said the first story, the first movie, is very uninteresting compared to the second movie. This movie feels like it should have been 2 different films, as I was just mentioning, and it suffers from a mashing up of both stories, creating an imbalance in tone and also an imbalance in plot. There are also some major plot holes in this movie, such as how the heck does that one character manage to get away with that one thing as the volcano starts to erupt? I mean, seriously, what just happened to them right before the volcano starts to erupt and the lava starts to run down at them should have made it so that they died in the volcano, but instead it puts them in a situation where they can comically survive because the power of plot armor is stronger than the power of logic, I guess. Also, seriously guys, as in seriously, the main characters of this movie, are you guys seriously that gullible? You did not see that coming? I mean, the corporation didn't even try and hide the fact that they were evil from you. I just think it's incredible how oblivious you were to this situation. There were some clear warning signs that you just looked over. How come Ian Malcolm is the only logical person in this movie, the only person who can think through things clearly and can think through them well? And also the soundtrack was very slow paced, kind of boring, and not worth buying. Some side notes though. I really dig the way the volcano explodes. I love how rather than going up all at once, it's a very slow burn, literally. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I thought the action was great, I thought the characters were great. There are a number of flaws in this movie that hold it back for me, but overall I feel like this is the second best Jurassic movie, right after the first Jurassic Park and right before the first Jurassic World. I can't wait to see the next one. So as a total score, I give Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom an 8 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed. See you guys next time. D-Man, out.